Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. For over a century, the Voynich manuscript has essentially been the holy grail of historical cryptography, right? It's been treated as this unbreakable cipher, carbon dated to the early 1400s, full of completely bizarre plants and these weird biological plumbing diagrams. But today we are looking at a radical new translation that literally flips everything we know on its head. We're going to see how new research transforms this text from a book of mystical gibberish into a highly structured, incredibly technical 13th century apothecary manual.
So I really want you to completely reconsider this 800-year-old mystery. For decades, people have desperately tried to read this thing as a book of dark magic or even an alien language. But what if we've just been looking at it the wrong way? What if this isn't magic at all, but a practical, highly technical ledger for early modern science? Now, to understand how a physical text, dated to the 1400s, actually contains 13th century science, we have to trace its intellectual origins.
And to understand how that's possible, we have to look at a very specific, absolutely brilliant historical figure, Michael Scott. He was a renowned Scottish mathematician, astrologer, and alchemist. He actually worked in the court of the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II, and even set up this massive chemical laboratory in Toledo, Spain. The research we're exploring today proposes that the Michael Scott protocol is the absolute key to unlocking the Voynich text. He was essentially a master of entrepreneurial alchemy, seamlessly blending early metallurgy with pharmacology.
Which brings us to our first core concept, Section 1, the 180-degree translation key.
You know, the breakthrough to finally reading this text doesn't actually come from some complex supercomputer algorithm. It's actually a brilliant spatial trick. Literally, if you physically rotate the manuscript pages exactly 180 degrees, all those alien symbols suddenly align into a standardized system of weights and measures, a master operational glossary. Look how these map out here. That symbol, it looks kind of like an 8. That's a drum, a standard unit of weight. The 4P acts as a scruple, which is used as a process valve or separator. 8AW means stasis, or a chemical resting period. But I really want you to pay special attention to 8V. This is the refined extract. It's the ultimate medicinal essence and honestly, the final goal of the entire laboratory protocol we are exploring today.
So the big question is, how do we actually get to that refined extract? Well, we can completely demystify those famous weird drawings of women sitting in complex plumbing and tubs. They aren't bizarre esoteric rituals at all. They're actually visual calculators for what the translation calls a 1.16-bit entropy deficit. In simple terms, it's just tracking the physical mass loss during extraction. You start with your raw weight, you subtract that 1.16 factor of mass loss to evaporation and waste, and boom, that yields your final dosage. It's literally an exact mathematical chemistry equation.
And it gets better, because the book ingeniously factors in environmental conditions. I mean, a 13th century lab definitely didn't have climate control, right? So those famous zodiac folios, they aren't astrology, they are a heat equation. The stars literally dictate thermal units. A high star density in the summer pages just means maximum solar heat for rapid maceration, which is just softening and breaking down the plants by soaking them. Furthermore, if you see wavy lines in the diagrams, that translates to high humidity. And since high humidity messes with your evaporation deficit, the book explicitly instructs the apothecary to add exactly one extra scruple of raw material to balance the weight. It's genius.
Now let's move into our next section, Section 2, Botanical Protocols and Extracts.
When we take this universal key and apply it to the specific botanical ingredients documented on folios 1V through 8V, notice how the protocols rapidly contrast depending on the plant you're working with. Take folio 1V, for example. We have nightshade. Because it's a powerful sedative and, frankly, a deadly poison, the manual requires tiny, precise measurements in scruples and a triple stasis, literally 3 periods of chemical cooling, just to stabilize the toxicity before it can ever become that 8V refined extract. But then flip right over to folio 2R, which details ephedra, a known stimulant. The protocol completely changes. You measure it in larger drams, and it only requires a single stasis. This isn't magic. It's highly specific practical pharmacology happening right on the page.
This takes us right to Section 3, the Rosette Map Workflow on folio 86V.
Now we're looking at the famous Rosette map. It's one of the most visually stunning foldouts in the entire manuscript. But again, we're framing it not as some esoteric magical diagram, but as a master pharmaceutical flowchart for the entire laboratory workflow. You can literally track the physical movement of materials step by step. You start way out at the outer harvest circles, where the raw botanicals are brought in. They then move inward through those specific 4P process valves, the scruple separators we just talked about. And finally, everything funnels straight into the center, the equilibrium hub, where that final 8V refined extract is bottled. It is a brilliant top-down schematic of an industrial-scale medieval laboratory.
So what is actually happening at that central equilibrium hub? According to the translation, this is where they produce the fabled Philosopher's Stone. But let's strip away the Harry Potter magic here. In this practical context, the stone is simply the ultimate medicinal essence and a highly guarded precursor for metallurgical gold purification. This directly links Michael Scott's apothecary work to entrepreneurial alchemy, and specifically his suspected role in helping Emperor Frederick II mint the highly pure state-sponsored Augustalis gold coins. So the manuscript is literally hiding state-level economic security secrets.
Which brings us to the most human part of this explainer. Section 4, Michael Scott's Hidden Voice.
You might be wondering, how do we know for absolutely sure this is Michael Scott? Well, if you apply a triple filter, basically filtering out all those technical lab markers, the A's and the 4 P's, and you read the remaining text from bottom to top, in a mirror, a phonetic Old English diary emerges right out of the noise, and it starkly isolates this haunting human plea. Hidden right there beneath the technical jargon, Scott wrote, "I am Michael, the one they call the wizard. I am a man of flesh, not a demon of the dark." He deliberately hid his true thoughts out of sheer terror. Living in the 13th century, his scientific brilliance, his chemical lab in Toledo, and his work with foreign texts could have easily gotten him burned at the stake for heresy. So he had to hide his humanity behind the math.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If this translation truly holds up, the Voynich manuscript isn't a failure of cryptography at all. It's an absolute masterpiece of survival. It challenges us to completely reconsider the legacy of medieval science. Because if a master alchemist had to encode his groundbreaking pharmaceutical and metallurgical protocols just to stay alive, where exactly is the true line between the magic of the Middle Ages and the brilliant minds who laid the absolute groundwork for modern chemistry? It really makes you wonder, what other massive scientific breakthroughs are still hiding right in plain sight, just waiting for someone to look at them in a mirror?